Hello, everyone. My name is Wes Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. For those who've watched quite a few of these episodes, if you know anyone else who would benefit from watching, please share it with at least one person. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. We have double trouble this week with two guests. Dylan Naicker and Adhir Singh are assistant lecturers currently completing their academic articles at UCT. They'll also both be starting at audit firms next year as second year trainees. Dylan, Adhir, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks a lot for having us here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Let's jump straight into the detail. Tell us your story, where do you come from, and even outside of lecturing, who is Dylan and Adhir? Give us that backstory.
Adhir, do you want to go first?
So my name's Adhir. I'm originally from Durban. I came to UCT to study a business science degree in finance and accounting. And then decided I wanted to pursue the accounting part more advancedly, and so I did my CTA or PGDA year last year. And then at some point during that year, I started studying with like a study group, and then working with them, I ended up really enjoying the whole process of explaining questions and as well as being asked questions and thinking about it. And then, sometimes not knowing and then having a discussion and being able to come up with an answer together. So then, I then wanted to become an academic trainee. So that's where I ended up today. Other than being an academic trainee, I'm quite passionate about the emerging tech space in the audit environment. So my thesis is along that realm of space. And other than that, I do enjoy, I am quite getting into fitness these days. So I'm enjoying going to the gym quite a lot. And other than that, it's just socializing with a bunch of my friends.
Now that you're done studying, you got time for fitness. Helps.
Yeah.
Dylan, over to you.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. So my name is Dylan Naicker. So I'm originally from Joburg, a part called Asia. So few people are aware of that. I started my UCT career in 2019. So I didn't do the business science. I did the BCom. So accounting has been the only way for me. And yes, I completed that in 2021. And then last year I registered for PGDA, got through it, which was a very, very big milestone. And so last year, as well, part of doing GDA, I also decided to tutor. So I tutored second year financial reporting and governance audit and assurance one. So it's also a second year course, tutored both of those. And that's kind of where my passion was more towards like teaching and like helping students like overcome those difficulties and like also explain stuff in a very simplified way to like make sure they can drive home the points. And then that kind of led me to like go towards becoming an academic trainee. Then I registered, well, I applied for it, luckily got through, and currently still in the financial reporting department. And then other things, well, Adhir and I also started like this soccer, kind of like a soccer club, a five-a-side thing with like the other academic trainees and lecturers at UCT. So we like kind of manage that every week. Then other things, I play guitar and yeah, mainly into sport.
That's always good. That's always good. But let's chat a little bit about why we are here. Adhir, for those who don't know, give us an explanation of what an academic trainee or an assistant lecturer actually does.
It's quite a mouthful actually. We do quite a lot of things. So predominantly we basically or we almost like an assistant to the course convener. So a lot of the times, a lot of the spare bits of times we have is actually spent on admin tasks. So it's like marking objective tests, which are weekly tests, which are given to students to check how they're doing and how they understand the current content. And other times it's more like, okay, uploading marks, making sure like announcements are sent out in time, are unseen solutions all up to date. And then the majority of the time is actually spent doing either tutorials. And then I think for a few weeks of the year, we actually do take on lecturing responsibilities. So in my case, I'm on the governance, auditing, and assurance side, or we just call it GAR. And I'm also the digital acumen AT. So for me, I kind of have like this special put towards myself where, because of CICA's CA 2025 initiative, the university wants to become more digital and implement more work that involves computers. So I kind of set up those assignments and make sure that it's running smoothly for students either this year or that can be used next year. In terms of my actual teaching responsibilities, it's mainly around tutorials and lecturing. But your typical day is generally you get into work, you have some admin stuff, you then have to go for a tutorial, you then have some lunch. The best part about being an AT is having the people around you, because you not only have a very rare opportunity of being with 20 other people who like your age are like-minded, kind of in the same career journey, or starting off the same at least. And so you really get to have those good conversations and make some meaningful relationships on that part. And then you'll probably run into a few conveners and or senior lecturers, and that's always great because, at least in my experience, they're always very open and you could have conversations with them. And then you might have your tutorial, few other admin responsibilities, and then you call it a day. And I would say another really nice thing about being an academic trainee is there's no like 9 to 5 job. You have your set responsibilities for a week, and however quickly you accomplish them, then you're done. The rest of the time is basically yours.
So next year is going to be a bit of a change.
Yeah.
Very good.
But Dylan, now over to you. I mean, you briefly mentioned that you applied, but how does someone become an academic trainee? Can you give us a little bit more color?
Okay, so the formal process is around August or even sometimes in July. So, at UCT, they have like an information session about the whole academic training program, and then they invite the GDA class, and then they just ask them to RSVP for just to see who's like interested in it. Then we have like a short presentation, like I say short, but it's like an hour long. It's about what you're going to do. It's like your responsibilities, your research commitments, all those different types of things. After that, there's roughly like a month where you actually do your formal application process, which is fill out the forms, do your CV, your cover letter, your motivations for actually wanting to be an academic trainee. After that, you'll get shortlisted and then you'll get interviewed. So you'll get usually like a panel interview with like different academics from like different sections. And after that, if you're successful, you'll get your email telling you, congratulations, we'd like you to be an academic trainee. And that is subject to your firm, however. So if you're usually your firms would account for everyone that wants to be academic trainees, but sometimes depending on where you are, they might have to limit the numbers. So a key thing for anyone that wants to apply is speak early to your firm so that they're aware of it and they can actually accommodate it. Because you're not going to be there for your first year, but when it comes to second year, they're going to have an extra person. So they're going to need to like be able to manage that.
That's good advice. I'm going to put out
I would also say, I would say add on to him that, you should actually tutor before you actually want to be an AT. Now, it's not a requirement because I didn't tutor, but Dylan did. And luckily enough for me, Dylan tutored the course that I'm tutoring this year. So I could always, throughout the year, whenever I'm like a bit uncertain about something, go to Dylan. Dylan, what did you do last year? And he'd very kindly share his advice towards me. And so I could implement those things. But even now, I do feel like if I had tutors, I'd be able to pick up some of those. I'll pick up the ways that I teach now and be able to make it different and better the next time I did teach the same thing. So I would say tutoring does give you a very good advantage.
It's another great tip.
Yeah.
I'm going to put out a few questions and I'll leave it to you to decide who's going to answer it. So, what have you learned from being an assistant lecturer that you think is going to stand you in good stead going forward?
For me, you want to go?
Well, mine is more of a joke. It's IAS 12, deferred tax. Handing over. But yeah, Adhir, go first, and I'll jump in after.
I was gonna say it's the public speaking skills, because I remember like my first tutorial, it's only 30 people, and it's not that much for a tutorial because your lectures are so much bigger. But walking into that and then just for the first time having to teach something to someone, and whether you like to think it or not, I at the time thought at least they were assessing me as much as I'm assessing them. So there's kind of like a little bit of an insecurity sort of thing. But I think after the first few of that, you get so comfortable just giving public speaking talks that it's really chill. You don't have to prepare as much anymore. You're more comfortable. The flow is better because you're more comfortable and letting them ask questions and just thinking on the spot. And you're also comfortable in getting back to them later. And that for me would always help me throughout the rest of my life.
Dylan, you look
Yeah,
like you wanted to add something there.
Yeah, so public speaking is one of the biggest benefits towards it. Another thing that kind of leads towards it is the confidence that you get. So your first tutorial, like I remember my one from last year, I was very, very nervous about it. And then after a while, you kind of like develop this confidence to like just be able to speak to anyone. So I remember because we met you at the Vasa event, if this was maybe last year, probably wouldn't have had that confidence to come and just start a conversation because you have that intimidation factor. But I guess like being an 18, like dealing with different years, it like kind of helps you with that. So yeah, public speaking, confidence, and also I'm not sure. I think I do you feel the same way. It's like your understanding of like the actual like fundamentals around your topic. So like in FR or financial reporting, you might not know the answer directly, but you can always like work your way around it, like to kind of develop it. And that actually helps with the strong foundation, which yeah, made the I-12 joke, but like it actually helps with that. So start of the year, it's like, okay, we know what's a tax base, but like how do we actually think about it? And like now it's a lot easier when we have consults. It's like, oh yeah, this is the tax base. And then we work from there.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Next question. So, I mean, it's October, so you're almost at the end of your academic trainee journey. You've Before you started, you would have had this expectation of what it was going to be like. Was the academic training experience what you expected?
Do you want to go or should I go first?
You can go.
Okay, so I spoke to a lot of the previous academic trainees, like from the year, because I was a tutor, it's like a lot easier too. And so I kind of had like a very good picture of like the highs and the lows, like when you have marking deadlines, how it can go. So it wasn't the same. Like it was a lot nicer, I guess. But that's because like I already knew what to expect. So anything not as they described was a win for me.
But I suppose
Yeah.
because you did your homework, so that helped.
Yeah. Yeah. So like going back to the advice thing, like speak to the academics, speak to your current year 80s, they can paint the picture for you very well.
Dylan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me it's more I went into this like not really knowing what was going to happen. Yes, I did my due diligence and I spoke to previous academic trainees having an idea of what was going to happen. But when I actually got into it, I think as Dylan said, it's a lot better. I didn't expect there to be such a good relationship between us lecturers, senior lecturers, and um, associate professors and etc. I really liked that the fact that there was no like hierarchical tension between us and like we actually got to talk to them and learn a lot from them. And I think what made my experience really good is that they kind of know this is your first job. They're not gonna. Yes, there's that expectation. You've passed ITC. I think my boss basically made a joke. As soon as I passed ITC, he's like, now I know that you're competent or initially competent. I can give you proper work. And so there is that expectation that you can perform a little bit, but they're not going to be too hard on you because they do have that understanding and they quite okay and will help you if you make mistakes or help you to be better. For example, I used to struggle with kind of planning my day out and having my calendar set in a way that it's useful for everyone else as well, so I don't forget these type of things. So it was helpful to actually go through this with I think with one of my other ATs and then be able to show me how to use Outlook properly and be able to put all these things into my calendar. And I feel like that's also something that will help me on later on in life to plan my work days around that.
Okay, no, great. For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end, so please add your questions to the comment section now so that we don't miss them. Tell us something you were not prepared for as an assistant lecturer that you had to deal with.
I personally would say sometimes I would get students that come to me and then they don't have any specific sort of question for you. They just want someone to listen. And so you just have to kind of sit there and like know that you're out of your depth here and just agree with them and make sure they're in the right direction some part and they're okay at the end of the day. But I think taking their emotional intelligence into account when giving answers is something that I needed to like take a step back, think about it really hard before I said something, and then assess the situation and then go from there.
That's
Yeah, for
interesting.
me, again, it's the amount of emails I would get. So yeah, like my inbox started to get flooded, and I was like, oh no, what's happening? But then yeah, it's just like basic queries, like send an announcement. It was more softer things. But again, it could be because I kind of knew what the tutoring aspect was, and now we're just building onto it. So I kind of knew like, okay, this is kind of like the stuff that would happen, and it's just like actually, oh no, I have 100 emails. Okay, let's deal with it now.
That's true. You never prepared for the emails, but we'll deal with that. How does one make the switch from student to lecturer? Because I mean, 1 year you're one of many. You in the back, or you somewhere. You don't stand out, and all of a sudden you're in front of everyone, and you're the person that stands out. So, how do you make that switch?
I mean, I don't think there's like an actual switch as per se. You just need to like remember, okay, this is what like kind of draw back on your experiences. Like what worked for you as a student, try to incorporate that. So like for me, also to like ease the nerves, because when you teach different years, it's like a different feel. Like the first years are very exciting, very rowdy, and then as you progress, it becomes quieter. And you might think, okay, that's because they're tired or something, but it's actually more like the respect factor of it. So you don't actually switch, but it's more like you know your role, you know what you're trying to do, and you can kind of get that from the student's reaction. So what I'll do is just like 5 minutes before the touch or the lecture, just like go speak to a few students, just like make them also know that yes, you are the lecturer, but you're also a person. You're not just this person that knows everything in the accounting standards and stuff, but yeah, you like music. Like some people do play music before a lecture, just like ease the tension that there might be.
That's a good tip. Alir,
Yeah, I
anything to
think
add?
that Dylan's onto it. Basically, you want to come off as well. You're not trying to come off as I know it all. I am a lecturer because you are in that transitional period, and I think also remembering you've done this. I think at the beginning of the year, my office mates always used to like remind ourselves when things used to get daunting is that we've done this before. We've done this so many years ago. We know what's happening, and then having that confidence in explaining certain concepts and also being able to take a step back when your explanation isn't as good as you think it would be, and to actually reflect on that in the moment and then give a better explanation is always a good thing to do.
Okay, that definitely helps. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the past. Let's talk about the future. Where to next? What's next for you? We touched on it a little bit, but give us some detail there.
So I've signed with PwC Cape Town. So after moving to Durban, I just decided, Cape Town's really good. Still getting used to the whole weather changes, but I've been loving it here. So I decided I wanted to stay in Cape Town. So um, PwC was my uncle's firm, and I was like, okay, you went there, you had great experiences there. I'm just gonna go there. Fortunately for me, PwC were also very nice in telling me, you can be an academic trainee, and so. I'm very grateful for that. But next year I'll be joining them as a second year associate, and see how audit takes me and fulfill my years of servitude there.
Yeah.
Telling
No,
yourself?
I'll be going back to Joburg. So I'm signed with KPMG in Joburg. And yeah, looking forward. Like it's been 5 years in Cape Town, which has been great, but I think it's time to go back home and see what what it is like. And also, I guess being home would actually help with those long nights.
Empire Road Parktown is calling you. Clearly, clearly.
Yeah,
I've been. It's a big office. I haven't been in a while, but it's a nice place to be.
yeah.
And maybe one last question before we switch over is: do you see yourself returning to lecturing after articles, or is it still too soon to talk about things like that?
I guess it's a bit too soon. Like, I do want to branch out into and like just get more experience elsewhere before returning. So that's why like being an AT also kind of helped me with that because I didn't want to just dive into one industry or like specifically into one thing. I wanted to try and get exposure as much and see what actually like feels a lot better for me to do and like do it. So we'll see, maybe in the future. But as of right now, we'll see how articles goes and then what happens after that.
And Adhir, yourself?
Oh yeah, I agree with Dylan. I think when I after I did get an academic trainee and I started working here, that consideration always comes up to everyone. And so what we used to do is just go around asking people like, what should we do, right? What from your experience, you fall into two categories. Either you went into industry and came back as a lecturer, or you came straight back as a lecturer. And we would ask the people, and the best response or the most common response we would get is, go into industry, dip your toes in it, see what it's like. And then if you enjoying it, you could stay there and know that you have another option of coming back when you get more experience in that field. Or if you're not liking it, then come back and lecture from that point. But do get that experience before you actually come back. I think that was the main piece of advice we were given. And personally, for me, I think that's what I would do. I'd really like to dip my toe in the business environment, and then depending on how that goes, come back because research is also quite an attractive feat for me. So I quite enjoy the whole process of learning and discovering new information. And then I'm not the best at writing everything down, but I'm working on it. Hopefully, at that point, I'd get a lot better at it. But yeah, I do enjoy the research aspect quite a lot, in addition to the teaching.
That's actually very true what you say, because I can remember, I mean, articles is a very specialized experience. Once you start leaving articles and you start managing people, I remember finishing articles at 24, 25. I was managing a 44-year-old, and I was like, this is very different to managing article clerk. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I don't see any questions coming through, so I think we've answered all the questions that I've asked. Any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
Um, I would say that the one thing is that being an academic trainee was probably one of the best experiences that I've had in life. And I say study journey because I'm still doing my master's now, so it's still in, so it still is that study period. But I've had such good experiences from being an AT, learned so much from so many people, and I feel like sometimes people don't consider the AT option as something that they should do because it's like, oh, I'm finished, I'm done with studying. And if you're done with studying, that's fine. There are other alternatives to being a master's because you could do an honors degree or the honors equivalent course instead of doing a master's, and that's slightly more relaxed, and so you still get that kind of break. But the experience that I got from relying on things that I knew and using that to develop my soft skills for the workplace has been like absolutely incredible. So I think it's an experience more people should consider, and I don't understand why people don't consider it that much. But yeah, I had a great time being an AT.
Closing
Yeah,
thoughts from
just
you,
touching
Dylan?
on yeah, just touching on what Deer said. So like soft skills is a very big focal point in your ATL because you're dealing with multiple different groups of people. You're dealing with the people that taught you, and now you're also dealing with people that you teach in. So you kind of like improve your soft skills a lot through being an AT. So that's one of the like a very big benefit to it. And yeah, it's been a great experience. Like I've due to last year and due to this, well, being an AT this year, I can say like for anyone that is considering it, it's a very good option to have and to go through. If you thinking about your career, like Adir and I both doing our masters, you don't have to do your masters, okay? But you'll learn skills. So like we learned a lot of research skills throughout this year, like having to write that dissertation, and that's things that you wouldn't necessarily get unless you finish your articles and then you register for those degrees to do. So you learn a lot a lot earlier, that should help you later on, and I hope it does. Yeah, it's been a great journey, and 10 out of 10 recommend to everyone else.
I know I said that would
Also,
be
the
the last
masters.
question. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say the masters is free, so that's another great benefit of the job.
That is definitely a benefit. I know I said there was a last question, but I see there's one question that's popped in from the audience that I just want to share. It looks fairly good, so I'm going to sneak it in quickly. I'm not sure who it's from, but it says, what preparation or training did you receive to support students with non-academic challenges? As you said, they bring this into the lecture room.
I wouldn't say lecture room per se, but we also have something called consultation. So that's basically we put in slots through on Fuller, which is our academic software, which we engage with the students, and they would generally sign up for it. And generally it's academic questions, but sometimes they'll just come and they'll want to just be heard. So at the beginning of the year, we did have this session, all of us as ATs with student wellness and a few other lecturers who did give us advice on what to do. And the general consensus is that, you're not really qualified to make any judgment calls in this realm. So you do refer them to someone else. But in the majority of the time, it's more only like if it's kind of small and you can see there's nothing going to happen, you can just agree and talk with them through it. And that's basically as much as it goes because you can't really do much else.
Yeah, so another thing is we just refer them to student wellness. But if it's more of a thing, so I don't have that issue. I have students like come to me and need help to like plan their time and like plan study times and those types of things. So that's something we also do in consultations where we can just assist them to like develop a plan for like how they can go about. So like say you perform poorly in test one and you want to improve it for test two. So we can like help them to like build a plan that will help them succeed. But as it relates to those other issues, we more there to listen if they want to speak to us about it. If they don't want to, they can redirect them to student wellness. And even after, if they speak to us, we can still, if we want to escalate it or if we want them to escalate it, we can refer them back to student wellness for that.
I think that's a good place to end. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Dylan, Adhir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.